everyone, I'm here with your astrology for the month of October of 2021. So this is the astrology headlines. If you want more of the day-to-day, what's going on with like the moon and Mercury and Venus, and kind of the quicker aspects that go on and more detailed, on my Patreon, I do have a level, the seeker level, where every week I go through all the details of what's going on for the week. So you can check that out in the links below. But if you're just interested in sort of generally what the headlines are, I'm here for you. I've got what's going on in the month of October. So first of all, we start off with a Mercury retrograde. So the Mercury retrograde started on Monday, September 27th, and it goes to October 18th. So Monday, October 18th. So a full 3 weeks we've got going on with the Mercury retrograde. Now, Mercury retrogrades aren't that unusual. They happen 3 times a year. This year, they're all in air signs, and this one happens to be in the sign of Libra. So if you do know what your birth chart looks like and you know what house is your Libra house, you can look at there to know where the Mercury retrograde is going to be affecting you. If you don't know that though, Libra tends to rule our partnerships. So this can be romantic partnerships, it can be business partnerships or creative partnerships, some of our close one-on-one friendships. This is where the miscommunications may arise at this time. So Mercury retrogrades aren't, like people will fear monger it and everything, but it does coincide with miscommunications, often with travel delays. And so what I tell people during a Mercury retrograde is, if you have to travel, give yourself extra time to do so. Give yourself lots of extra time, be patient, be ready that there might be delays so that you're a little more prepared. When it comes to communication, if somebody says something weird or unclear to you, ask for clarification. Say like, did you really mean that? Or could you tell me more about it? Like clarify it, because their communication may not be up to par as it normally is. You may not be understanding things. Like ask for clarification. The other thing too is to make sure when you're communicating, you're being as clear as possible. And just understand that people might misinterpret things, so you might have to explain a little bit more. So give yourself leeway, give your others leeway. Like just be patient. The thing is with Mercury retrogrades is they can actually be quite good in that it's a great time to edit things. It's a great time to relook at things or redo things that maybe need redoing. A great time to kind of like visit old issues, because often what happens during Mercury retrogrades is old things pop up again. Things from the past pop up. So partnerships from the past might pop up. Friendships from the past might pop up. And it's a good time to reevaluate those things, relook at them, and talk about those things. So it is a good time to review and relook at things. So there are benefits to a Mercury retrograde. Now, on Wednesday, October 6th, we have our first new moon in the sign of Libra. So new moons are always a great time to set some intentions. We are in a Mercury retrograde, but, still use that new moon energy. And again, look at your Libra house, because you can set some intentions in that house on the new moon. However, if you don't know, again, it's a good time to set some intentions around partnerships. Just be aware that things may not manifest right away because we are in that Mercury retrograde in the same sign. So this particular new moon is conjunct with, meaning it's together in the sky with Mars and that Mercury retrograde. So, it is a time where there may be some disagreements or arguments that come up. So just be aware of that on that day. We also have Pluto going direct on that day. So Pluto's been in retrograde. He spends half the year in retrograde. That is normal. It's just the way it is. And so he goes direct on that day on Wednesday, October 6th. So that's a day that's quite charged with a lot of energy towards, there's some miscommunication going on that day, but it's also like we're starting to move forward again. We're starting to look at the past, to look at things, to reevaluate things and say, how do I want to move forward? What kind of structures do I want in my life? And how do I want to change things over the long term? So there can be a lot of realizations that are going on that day. When the outer planets go direct or retrograde, we tend to not feel it as much unless it touches a point in our chart. So Pluto is going direct at 24 degrees of Libra. So if you have planets at 24 degrees of a sign, you are probably going to feel this more than others. But generally speaking, the outer planets like Pluto and Neptune and Uranus, we tend to notice them more in the world. So you may see that politically things start to move forward a little bit. There may be some changes politically on Wednesday, October 6th, because Pluto is in Capricorn, which tends to rule government and power structures. Thursday, October 7th, Venus changes signs. She changes from Scorpio into Sagittarius. She's a little bit happier in Sagittarius than Scorpio. When Venus rules beauty, it rules art, it rules our aesthetics, romance. And so I always think of her, and when she's in Scorpio, it's kind of like the goth girl, right? But when she's in Sagittarius, she turns into like a little bit more sporty spice. She's a little bit more sporty, a little more active, a little more adventurous. She tends to be a little happier in that sign. So Venus and Scorpio, I'm just getting out my cards here. The key word for this is the Oracle of the Radiant Sun is secrets. And in Sagittarius, it is flirtation. So you can see it's a very different type of energy. She wants to have fun. She does want to flirt. She wants to go out and do things, have activities. So you're going to be feeling a little bit more like you want to get out and do things and have some fun in your life. So that energy is popping up in October on the 7th. Saturday, October 9th, we have the halfway point of the Mercury retrograde. That is when the Sun and Mercury are conjunct, sometimes what's called a cazimi. And so that usually shows us what the lesson of this particular retrograde is. So pay attention to what happens on Saturday, October 9th, because that is what the message for this Mercury retrograde is for you. I tend to find the most active times for the Mercury retrograde tend to be right at the beginning, at this halfway point, and then right at the end. So just keep an eye out for that. We also have on that day, Mercury is also making a conjunction with Mars on that day. So that's like a day where a lot of, there may be some conflicts that come up at that time. This may be where things kind of come to a head if there's been like a disagreement or something. So, but you'll really get what the lesson is on Saturday, October 9th. Sunday, October 10th, we have the next outer planet moving into direct, which is Saturn, because we've had for the past couple of months, we've had Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, we've had Saturn as well as Pluto all in retrograde. So all the outer planets have been retrograde, which has kind of like slowed things down, stalled things. You may not feel like you can move forward as much. Now they're starting over the next few months. They're really going to start to move forward again. So it'll start to feel like things are moving forward in your life again. Sunday, October 10th, we have Saturn moving forward. He's in the sign of Aquarius. He'll be there, I think, till 2023. So, with Saturn rules, restrictions, and rules. And sometimes this can mean that we feel like, okay, I can move forward now with the rules because now I know what the rules are. There's more certainty. I can move forward again. But it also may mean that new rules are imposed. And I think especially, I know it's different all over the world and everyone's dealing with things differently. But here in Canada, we're kind of in the fourth wave of the COVID thing that's going on. And so I think that there may be sort of more rules and restrictions that might come in, or maybe just more certainty about what expectations are for people's behavior moving forward. Because Aquarius is all about the collective, right? It's about the collective. It's about what's best for everybody. So it's very much about the collective good. And so there may be more clarification about rules and things on that day. Monday, October 18th, we have the end of Mercury retrograde. Mercury goes direct. Again, I find that the day it goes direct actually is usually pretty active too, so just be aware of any miscommunication issues on that day. We are in the shadow, what's called the shadow phase, for a couple more weeks, but it gets better as we move forward. So you can kind of breathe a little easier as we go forward from October 18th. We also have Mars trining Jupiter on that day. So Mars is a little bit active this month. And so it may be a day, again, where there's a lot of emotional energy because Mars has to do often with our anger, our drive, or force in the world. And Jupiter expands things. So there may just be a lot of drama on October 18th. Wednesday, October 20th, we have our full moon. This is in the sign of Aries. Full moons are a great time to find some balance and make some choices. And Libra has to do with like our partnerships, whereas Aries is about like ourselves and our personal selves. So often it's a time to find a balance between what our wants and needs and individual desires are and what our partnerships desires are. We either have to make a choice or we have to find some kind of balance on that day. Full moons are also a great time to do some releasing energy, some forgiving energy. It's a good time to send out healing, that kind of thing. This particular full moon looks like a really good one. So it's a great time to maybe do some like self-love or romance spells, things like that. Friday, October 22nd, we have Mars making a square with Pluto. So that's a day where there may be some tension, particularly in any kind of power dynamics going on. Mars, again, is aggression and will and drive, which can be good, but it also can be like it can get overboard. And with Pluto, which often has to do with like power and our deeper psychological nature and shadow and things, there may be some conflicts that come up that kind of, like trigger old wounds and things, or make us feel threatened, like maybe our power is threatened as well. So be kind to others and be kind to yourself on that day. Saturday, October 23rd, we have the sun moving into Scorpio, as it does at that time of year. So our focus goes from Libra, which is all about partnerships and harmony and wanting to get along with others. And now it kind of goes towards like the shadow, like Scorpio. It goes towards things like some of the taboo topics like sex and death and magic, some of the things that, maybe we don't like to talk about in like polite society. But it also is a good time to look within and do some transformation, especially on these issues. And I mean, hey, we're getting to Halloween at this point. So, there's a lot of, it's a good time to kind of embrace the darker side of life. So sun, I'm getting out the sun here in Libra. We have the keyword harmony, and I would definitely agree with that. And then sun in Scorpio, we have endurance, and we have like Hercules here, wrestling lion. Actually makes me think of the strength card, which is actually very Leo, which is another fixed sign. So, our focus tends towards, especially here in the Northern Hemisphere, we're in the dark half of the year. So it tends to turn a little more inwards, a little bit more introspective, a little bit more reflecting on things like spirituality and mortality and all of those kind of things. On Saturday, October 30th, the day before Halloween, we have Mars moving into Scorpio. So Mars is much happier being in Scorpio than he is in Libra. Libra is ruled by Venus, and so he has to be a bit gentler. He has to get his way a little bit gentler than he likes to, because Mars in Libra tends to be the sign of the diplomat, somebody who has like kind of an iron fist in a velvet glove, I like to say, because it's about like getting what you want, but by doing it, kind of sometimes passively aggressively, but other times like sweet talking people into what you want. So Mars in Libra, we have choice here, which is it's kind of a interesting card. It's about finding that balance, kind of like picking our battles. What's important, what's not, what do we need to let go? Oh, Mars and Scorpio, revenge. Oh yes, I would definitely agree with that, Mars and Scorpio. It's definitely that can be the negative side for sure, because Scorpio tends to work not very covertly rather than overtly. So whereas Mars and Leo, its danger is being very pushy and kind of bullying and trying to push for what it wants. When it's in Scorpio, it's working behind the scenes, and it's totally that saying that revenge is a dish best served cold. It doesn't forget things, and it's like, I'm going to get this back. I'm going to get you back. So watch for that kind of energy. That is definitely the negative side of things. But the bright side of things is that you can definitely use that energy to do a lot of self-transformation, to really look inward, to kind of like, it's a great time to do some shadow work with the sun being in Scorpio and then Mars in Scorpio. Very much about like looking within and thinking like, what do I not need in my life anymore? What am I getting rid of? What am I banishing? What am I pushing out? What do I no longer need in my life? And where do I need to make some improvements? So it can be a really positive aspect as well. So that's what I'm seeing for the month of October. It's one where I think it's going to be a bit of a challenging month, in that it's asking us, both with the Mercury retrograde and then with Mars late in the month moving into Scorpio, asking us very much to kind of like look at some things from the past, look at things that maybe we don't want to look at, and reevaluate how we want to act in the world, or how we just want to be in our relationships with others. Because like the retrograde may confront us with some old issues, and then Mars in Scorpio at the end of the month may also we might be digging up some like deeper stuff. So it's not always the most pleasant, but it is useful and necessary to lay the groundwork as we move forward, particularly as we have some of those bigger planets, those outer planets, moving forward as we move towards the end of the year. So again, thank you so much for watching. If you want astrology readings, check out my SC. If you want more, in-depth week-to-week stuff, you can check out the Patreon. But thank you so much for watching. Thanks to my patrons. You make this possible. You guys are awesome. And as always, peace and love and love.